Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Before we begin, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Now here's the story. So, my story is not as bad as some you see it in here, but at the same time is not so different from the ones you see most of the time this type of thing happens. My parents had me, and 4 years later, after 2 miscarriages, they had my sister. She was the miracle child and they always wanted a girl. Ever since she was born, they showed more love to her. I guess it's some kind of subconscious thing because she was a very difficult pregnancy for my mom and was born prematurely. Up until I was maybe 9 or 10, I would treat my sister like a princess. She was super nice to me and hugged me every time she saw me. But that started to change when both my parents missed a whole day of a tennis tournament I was playing in when I was 13. The thing went on the whole day. I went with my coach and teammates, but all of my teammates' parents were there, only mine weren't. They promised they would go to lunch and bring me my lunch as well, but they didn't show up. My friend's parents saw this and took me to lunch and called them. They asked to talk to me and said they were sorry they couldn't go, and that my sister wanted to go to the movies and they were going to take her. They arranged with my friend's parents to take me home after the tournament. This made me so sad that I didn't even play the next match, just said my shoulder hurt and withdrew. My friend's parents took me to get some ice cream, probably saw how sad I was and took me home. When I got home, my parents asked how the tournament was, and if I had won, I was pretty good. I just said I didn't and went to my room. My dad went to my room a couple hours later and asked me if something was wrong. Thinking about it today, and I can very clearly remember. Just one of those days, I guess. I think if they noticed I was sad, they would just think it was about me losing the tournament. My best guess is that my friend's parents told them something was wrong. I just asked him why couldn't one of them come to see me play. He said that boys don't need attention like girls do. I was big enough to be a good brother and understand that. Since that day, everything I've been going through started to click. I could never pick a movie to watch. I could never pick what we would eat. If I got a phone on my birthday, my sister would also get one. If she got a tablet, I would not get one. On 2 occasions, my parents went to Disney World with my sister and didn't bring me because I was too old for Disney World. Mind you, I was 15 and 16 at those times. At some point, my parents just gave me money and told me I could spend my birthday with my friends at an arcade or go on a family vacation that would just be going to our grandparents' house for the weekend with no cake or anything. While my sister would get such exuberant, giant parties, even my friends would get excited when her birthday was around the corner. They were not terrible parents, but it was very obvious they loved her more. And when I was around 16, I just said it to their faces that they didn't love me. That made my mother cry uncontrollably. My dad got furious and hit me for the first time, 2 slaps across the face. It was around this time my sister became an absolute prick. She would break things on purpose and say it was me. She would ask me to help her with her chores, and when I didn't help, she would say I yelled at her just so I would do it for her. My dad and I barely spoke apart from fighting. My mom would try to talk to me, but always made it feel like I was being difficult. I guess it was difficult, but I was a teenager. When I was a senior, my dad told me that they could only afford for one of us to go to college, and that it would be my sister because she is a girl. He told me that I needed to start looking for student loans and that I was on my own as soon as I graduated Hayes. My mom was also present and she cried silently, said that they were sorry, but ultimately echoed my father. I was speechless. My parents were rich. I knew that they could for sure afford for us both. I didn't question it though. I didn't care about it anymore. When it was time to go to college, my maternal grandfather took me to the city I was going to college at. My parents didn't go because it would be my sister's birthday in 3 days and they were preparing the party. During the trip, my grandfather was complaining about my dad not being there to take me. He asked me why. I told him that I didn't know, that he wasn't going to pay for my college anyway, so I didn't care. My grandfather was very confused. He asked who was paying. I told him I applied for a student loan, and my grandfather got extremely red in the face. It looked like he would explode there and then. He asked about my sister and I told him no way. They will for sure pay for their little angel. We then just talked about sports like we used to. About a week later, I got a call from my maternal grandparents. They said they spoke and decided to pay for my college. They explained that they didn't think it was fair for me to have to pay it on my own when my sister didn't. I just thanked them profusely. The next day, I got a call from my mom. She asked what did I tell my grandparents. She was furious and just told me I'm an ungrateful little shit. My dad got on the phone and just screamed at me. Apparently, the plan was for me to pay for it on my own. And when I finished it, they would give me the money, and that was supposed to be a lesson for me to learn about what it is like to struggle and not have my parents help. My grandparents disowned my mother. Yep, they used the money they were going to leave her to pay for my college, pay the rent for an apartment while I was in college, and even buy me a car. Apparently, that was completely in agreement with my uncle and aunt. The retaliation came as me being disowned myself. My parents saw it as a stab in the back and told me they were ashamed to be my parents. This was not about the money at all. Like I said, my parents are very rich. My dad is a doctor and my mom has a clothing boutique that is pretty successful. My dad's family is also super rich as well, although we were never close to them. What my grandparents would have left my mother was probably not even bothering them at all. It was about their pride. Ever since then, I only spoke to my mother once. I always felt like my dad was the main culprit of the favoritism, and my mom was only being complacent. So I reached out to ask her to come to my graduation. When she answered the phone, she did not sound excited at all to talk to me. I went on to ask her to come, and all she said was, "Why would I?" I hung up and realized I no longer had parents. Jump to a couple months ago, I had all of them blocked on all forms of social media, my dad, my mom, and my sister. I got sent a DM on Twitter of all places, saying that it was my sister's fiancé, and that he wanted to talk to me, and that it was completely civilized and for me not to worry about him. TBH, I was interested in what he had to say. I had heard from relatives that she was engaged. It didn't come to me to contact her though. It had been 11 years since we last spoke. Still, although she was a little shit, she was just a kid and I always felt a little bit bad for cutting her out. I live far away now, so we set up a time to video call, and he promised it would be only him and me. I expected the conversation to be about me reconciling with my family, and that they miss me and that the wedding was a great opportunity for it to happen. If this was the case, I would ask if this came from them. If it was, then I would consider it. If it was all his idea, I would shut it down. When we got on the call, he told me it was a great pleasure to finally meet me. I found it weird because I assumed that all he would have heard about me was bad. I first asked how he found me. He told me his cousin works with my girlfriend and he saw me in a group photo on her Instagram. Said that they tried to reach me through my relatives, but they never gave an inch to him or my sister. I asked them for this, especially my maternal uncle, who is the only one I talk to regularly since my grandparents passed away. He then didn't make even the smallest of small talk and cut straight to it. My sister misses me badly. Apparently for the past 8 months she has been trying to reach out in various ways but was unable to. I asked him why, and he just told me that she had a talk with my mom's sister that she did not disclose with him. But that changed everything. He said that she never said anything bad about me, but only mentioned me in passing and acted like it was no big deal that I existed. But since that talk she has been desperate to talk to me, to see me. She has been going to therapy, and they decided to delay their wedding because she has been depressed and anxious. I was a bit skeptical. I don't even know what the hell my aunt could have told her to make that much of a change of heart. From what I know, she only knows that my grandparents gave me everything it was supposed to go to my mom. That's that. She was never very present in my life. Not then, not now. I just guessed they used her name since both my maternal grandparents had passed. I asked him what his plan was. He just told me he wanted to talk to me about what had happened. He said he was afraid to tell my sister that he finally found a way to contact me and make her go down on her depression spiral again. That she has gotten better the last couple of months and is more determined than sad. He basically wanted to check with me if I was willing to hear her out or if I would just shut her down. He said that if I was going to just shut it down, he would rather say that he tried to talk to me and I didn't want contact and break the news to her gently, as opposed to the possibility of me blowing up on her and making her depressed again. I was scared to relive those memories. Thinking about my mom was very hard for me. The moment she destroyed the sliver of hope when I last called her still popped in my head from time to time. Still, I DM'd him that I was willing to hear her out. About 2 days later, he told me that she wanted to meet me in person and that she would fly out here if I was okay with it. I was just like, at this point, why the heck not? The next week, she was already in town. We decided to meet at my girlfriend's apartment for dinner. I went there and waited. 10 minutes felt like 10 hours and I cried several times during the day. When she got there, my girlfriend got the door, and when she looked at me, it felt like she was that 5-year-old that always wanted to play, hug, and just be around me. She looked so happy. I started to cry instantly and she came running to hug me. I stayed in that hug like it was a warm blanket and crying for what it felt like a good 15 minutes. When I finally got to my senses again, I just saw my girlfriend and my sister's fiancé and they were both crying as well. When I stopped, it was time for my sister to ugly cry and just say, almost scream, "I'm so sorry," repeatedly. After all the crying stopped, she said that she wanted to speak to me in private. Basically, she told me that my aunt decided to have a talk with her after she got the news that I wasn't invited to her wedding. She thought that this could be a way to finally bury the hatchet. My aunt knew a lot more than I thought she knew, and she told it all to my sister. My sister admitted that she had not even considered inviting me before. But when she heard my aunt talk about me, about how things went down the last couple of years when I was in Hayes, the things my father told me I chose to not tell here, because it's a bit too much and hurts even trying to remember. She realized that our parents had been feeding her lies her whole life, and that she was horrible to me. Now, I wouldn't say she was horrible, especially after reading some other stories here the last couple of weeks. She was annoying at best. I asked her what did our parents say to her about me. She just said she would rather wait a bit to tell me cause it was very hurtful, and she would rather bond with me first and become friends and true siblings. And then she would speak about our parents. The only thing she said is that she is still in contact with them, but they are not on good terms at the moment. The next few days we went on a couple dates, you could call it, just the two of us. Also, when we hung out, the four of us, she, my girlfriend, and her, seemed to connect very fast, and her fiancé is a very good guy. On their last day, she said they would do a small wedding, just family and friends, and that it would be her dream for me to go. I just told her that I was not ready to face my parents yet, especially not knowing what they were talking about me, since she made it sound pretty serious. Now in the airport already, she just told me that I should give Mom another chance, that she would talk to her, and I asked her why only Mom. She just looked at me and said that Dad is a lost cause, and that she doesn't know herself if she is ever going to speak to him again. Now, she said that she would rather I go than them, and that if it was the only way I would show up, she would invite them. This felt like a ton had been lifted off my shoulders. Even though in the last 10 years I've been pretty distant from this situation, and whenever my girlfriend brought it up, I would just push it aside, saying I didn't care. I did care. I still loved them. The feeling of being loved by at least one of them was just indescribable, something that I deep down knew I wanted but didn't admit to it. For the time being, I don't know what I will do. I guess I will talk to my aunt first and understand why she did what she did. Also, ask her why she told all that stuff to my sister and then didn't give her my number. I only realized this after writing all of this down, but that seems really weird, and it's the loose end of this whole story. I'm thinking of going to the wedding if my parents are really not invited, but I want that to be my sister's choice, and I will not push her to do anything. What would you do in this situation? Do you think OP handled it correctly? Comment down below what you think. Also, let me know which story you think was better. If you would like to see more videos like this, please hit the thumbs up button to like the video. Also comment, share, and subscribe.